Okay, so today we're going to be doing my June wrap up. So this is absolutely crazy that this is mid-year. So if you're new here today, hi, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. Or if you're a returning subscriber, I love you. So for June, this is probably going to be a quick video because I unfortunately got sick for about 2 weeks and I just didn't want to do anything. In my head I was like, you know what, I want to read, but then I just could not focus on reading. I was having coughing fits after coughing fit and just, it was not fun. It wasn't fun. So all of the books this month, I have 0 physical. I read them all on my Kindle because it was just so much easier. We have got 5 books that we read. It was a bit of a short month though because the books that I did read were on the shorter side. So realistically I didn't have like a huge month, even though you're probably like 5 books is a lot. It's not. Like, trust me, it wasn't that much compared to like my previous months, I should say. For this month we have 2 thrillers, 1 contemporary romance and 2 horror books. I'm going to put the page count over here for you guys and let's just jump straight into what they are and the reviews. So the first book that we read is Ward D by Frida McFadden. This, to be honest, was a really highly participated read in the Frida genre for me personally. So I did end up giving this one 3.5 stars. I was super excited for this book. Really loved the whole psychological aspect of it with like the mental ward and how it's like this hospitalization and there's nurses and stuff and things go wrong and all this jazz. But it, unfortunately, the ending did kill a star. It did kill a star. Once you hit a certain point, a lot of people say they couldn't guess it or they didn't guess it, which is normally everyone's aspect for Frida. But once, for me personally, I got to, I think about, I'm going to say around the 70 to 80% mark and I guessed the ending. And honestly, I feel like the ending could have been a little, I don't know, better. When you know who it is, it's honestly like quite obvious. I'm just saying. But pretty much in this one we follow a nurse called Amy. She is a student. She ends up doing this placement with her ex, who's obviously a student. But things happen. They have like a professor and you know, he shows them around, and then there's this other kind of like higher up and nurse. I believe she's a nurse and she's shady. She is shady as fuck and no one is sussing her. And then in this ward it turns out that Amy's ex-best friend, who they actually had they've got like a secret going on between them, and you know, we find that out, which I can't really say anything, but she's got her best friend in there and she hasn't seen her for a long time. And then we meet all these other patients in there with mental illnesses. We have a guy called Spider Dan, and to be honest, he's probably the best character out of them all. I honestly enjoyed him. He was funny, he was iconic, and he was definitely the best. So other than that, I can't really honestly say much because a lot of the plot will give away what it is. Like, it's really good though. I do admit it is fast paced. It is very fast paced. So if you're looking for a quick thriller, I also feel like Frida's thrillers are all fast paced too. Some are a hit and miss though, I'm gotta say. Then I was in like this thriller game, right? And so the next one I read was Keep It in the Family by John Mars. Now, I cannot tell you anything. I don't care about this book. This was such a waste of time. I gave it a generous 2 stars. And that 2 stars is like, it's only for probably 30% of the book. Now, this is my first John Mars book. I don't know if I want to read another book by him. I feel like because it's only the one I feel like I need to give him a chance and do read another one. I loved the whole concept of this book, but it's just not thrilling. Honestly, it was boring. For me personally, in my humble opinion, it was boring. A huge reason why I thought it was boring was, one, because it was so freaking repetitive. Like, a good portion was really repetitive, and two, it was so freaking long. It was so long. It just kept going and going and going and going and going. And each section, like, yeah, there was like a twist or a plot point or something to do with it, or it just kept adding on and on and on to the story, and you're like, oh my god, okay, that case is solved, what else could there be? Because there's like another 40% of the book left. So it's like, it was very, very dragged out, and it was just very long. It could have been cut in half. If it was cut in half and just, it would have been so much higher. So, but the actual concept of this book is, we follow a couple who end up buying this old rundown house, and they go in there and they're cleaning up and blah blah blah, and then they find writing on the wall that said something creepy. So it said, I will save them from the attic, and pretty much when they find these, the guy's parents are also there, and it starts from there. It starts from there. That's all I'm going to say. So it was like this couple, and then while they're renovating this house, because I don't know if I mentioned that, but they're renovating this old house, and that's how they found that writing. And they go up to the attic, and there's like all these suitcases and stuff just up there with like clothing and whatnot. And while they're there, they're staying with his parents during the process. So his parents are helping also renovate this house. And that's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say though is, there is one extremely obsessed, crazy mum. Super obsessed, super crazy, super psychotic, super like... I feel sorry for anybody whose mum or mother-in-law is like that. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. And then there's a bunch of lies, there's a bunch of family secrets, there's a lot of things coming out, there's people lying about their lives, there's like all these crazy things, and like every single plot is really good. It's just super long. It's just too long. Okay, so the next two, I just want to quickly brief on them. I don't want to go in them too deep, honestly. Like, so the next two is called Raised by a Killer, and I read book 6 and 7. It is a 10 book series, but these books are super short. They're like between 120 to 150 pages each. So this is why I say it really wasn't like a huge book month, because that's just pretty much one book by itself there. So I don't want to go into this one too much. This is a horror book. It is very detailed, very gruesome. It is one that you do need to start from the start, but I do not recommend it. I am rating these books 1 stars. Literally all of them I've rated on 1 stars. Nobody should have to read it. If you're into, like I said in my previous wrap up for April and May, because that's when I started the series, if you're into like gory horror movies, you know, like Saw and Hostel, Human Centipede, like any of that, then yeah, this is probably up your alley. But for the most common population, don't read it. So one thing I do have to say though is, from book 5, so 5, 6 and 7, I am finding it a lot more tame and not as gruesome and not as detailed, or it's detailed, but not as like gross as the first 4 books. The first like 2 books, 2 or 3 books like had me like questioning whether I was going to continue or not. I was so close to DNFing. I was like, no, this is like too far-fetched. Curious cat I am, honestly, and here I am. So it's getting a lot easier the further I go on. it's getting less disgusting, it's getting less gruesome, and I don't know if it's because the FMC is like grown up now, so she's making her own choices and she doesn't have to follow like her dad and all this crazy stuff, and she's an adult, whereas at the start she's only a child. So I think that's what was traumatizing about the whole situation. So I don't know if it's because of that and we are seeing like her own decisions being made and stuff like that, or I don't know if it's actually because they aren't as gruesome and disgusting and full on anymore. I have no idea which way it goes, but that's all I'm going to say on that. That's it. Obviously, until I tell you about 9 and 10. Okay, the lucky last book that we read is, if you've seen my April and May wrap up, you would have seen that I've started the Rebecca Yarros backlog catalogue. Guys, I had no freaking idea her contemporary romances are this good. So this time around I read Variation. So I had no idea that her contemporary romances are so freaking good. How does she think of these men? Like, where are these men in the world? I bet you they're nowhere. She's probably never met a guy like these ones. So this month I ended up reading Variation by her, and this is a ballet book with he's not really a military, I think maybe something in the military, but he doesn't really like go away, but he is like a lifesaver pretty much. So with his job they do need to like apply to go like work at a place and like get stationed somewhere, but it's not that whole military thing where it's like private and he can't talk about where he is and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure if it's like an off military base thing or if it's just, I don't know, kind of like say like police work or anything. I'm not too sure, but he is I wouldn't really say a lifeguard because he goes out into the deep sea and like saves people, I don't know, but yeah, he's essentially a lifeguard. And then we follow Ellie, and she is a professional ballerina. Her whole family are professional ballerinas. Her mum is like a top A coach or something, and her mum actually has dementia, which is actually really sad. So Ellie has, I think, like 2 other sisters. I was getting confused because I'm pretty sure it's 2, but I swear there was like 3 in the book. But she has, I don't know, 2 or 3 other sisters. One of them ended up dying in a car accident, and pretty much really crazy how it happened. It's like a small town where their summer home was, and other than that they go to New York for ballet during, you know, the rest of the year, and then every summer they came back to their summer holiday house. That's where Hudson's from. That's where Hudson's family is from. I feel like this is probably going around the bush and making no sense. So it's not a spoiler, you find out at the start, but one of her sisters dies, and she was also in the crash with her. She lived, she survived, she doesn't remember what happened in the crash or anything like that. She goes on, becomes a professional ballerina, and then she ends up injuring her ankle or her knee. I think she had like 2 different injuries, like time apart. Anyway, she's out on rehab, so she goes back to the summer house before like they sell it or something like that, and she runs into Hudson again. Now Ellie and Hudson are exes. They're already dated each other. They dated each other when they first met as teenagers. They had this falling out. Something happened, a deep dark secret happened, and you don't end up finding out until the end of the book. And it is so heartbreaking. It is so sad. I was borderline in tears. I'm not gonna lie, it tugged on my heartstrings. But it was honestly really good. Now I did rate this 3.75 star. Now it was so close to a 4. So close to a 4, but the only thing is I did feel like it was a little bit too long. There was a lot of like general talk and like the kind of like gap areas where nothing really is happening, and it just kind of went on for like chapters and chapters, and I feel like it could have been shortened. I don't know if I feel like that this month because I was sick. I'm not too sure. I wasn't really in the mood for anything, but this book I honestly did really love. I loved the family dynamic. I loved the exes to lovers. I haven't actually really read many books that are ex to lovers. Like, I've never really read many second chance romances, so I absolutely love that. And then the actual secrets in this book too, like, they tugged on the heartstrings. It was honestly like, it makes me think. Her first contemporary romance book I read was In the Likely Event. That also tugged on my heartstrings. This one tugged on my heartstrings. And I'm gonna grab it. I actually have this book coming up for a reading vlog, and this is apparently really heartbreaking, but I'm like, how am I going to be in this book if these other two books are already tugging on my heartstrings and they're just her normal? Like, so that is all the books that I read this month. I know it was really quick and short-lived, but hopefully July is going to be a better month. So for my July TBR video, I already did film that today, and I actually ended up getting my daughter to pick out my prompts, and then I picked the books based on that. And then I'm going to do a little second reading vlog part 2 for it in a couple of weeks or a few weeks, where she actually picks which books out of the TBR for me to read. So I'm very excited to see her selections on what she picks when I do that one. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy the idea and think it's really fun and cute. And let me know if there's any other TBR jar challenges you want me to do, or reading challenges. I've been trying to do quite a few 24-hour reading challenges. I can also do a realistic week in my life reading as a mum if you like. Anything, like, let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. So as always, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my July TBR. Bye.